Okay, so going out to the backyard, we can see what kind of work we've been doing out here. Hi guys. So I did separate the chicken coop from the rest of it. I left the chickens in this area for about 3 months. They took care of pretty much all the plants, which is kind of what I wanted. And just in case I want to grow something out of the ground, it'd be fairly fertile, lots of nitrogen from these guys. So yeah, this is what I worked on yesterday. These 3 trellises, they're made out of cattle panels, 16 foot by 50 inch, and secured them in the ground with these T-posts that are 6 foot. So they're in the ground, so they're 5 foot, and about 3 foot of them are secured to the top 3 foot are secured to the cattle panels, and that way I can squeeze my my tubs underneath, my wicking tubs. Or if I want to later on put raised beds in, I can put the raised beds in around underneath those things, and I can still work with it. And it also raises these, by putting a couple of feet underneath of space, it raises these up nice and high, so there'll be lots of area for the vines to climb on. Already gotten started with a couple of sets of hybrid tomatoes. Next time I'll go with heirloom, but I just kind of got what I got. From the local big box store. Now, these wicking tubs are pretty cool. There's a guy named Leon, and his site, or his YouTube channel, is Gardening with Leon. He's pretty much the master at this kind of thing, and I learned a heck of a lot from that guy. So it's very early February in South Texas, and these things are growing pretty well. This is mustard greens here, Georgia, or not mustard, collard greens, Georgia collards. We've got romaine lettuce here in these wicking tubs, and I've got a jumbo jalapeno in the middle, which isn't doing so well because it's still pretty early in the season. Yep. I'll be starting peppers later on. I just wanted to see how they do. This is curly kale, and this is Swiss chard. I put all those in maybe 3 weeks ago. They were pretty tiny, and they've just really taken off. Got a little basil, oregano, or basil, thyme, and rosemary in this one. Got some cilantro, not doing completely well. It is growing, but it's waiting for the warm weather to catch on. Got some shallots, which same situation there. Doing okay, but they'll do better when it gets warmer. Brussels sprouts, same thing. And just a mixture of herbs that we had already had planted from past season. So these wicking tubs are pretty cool, and I asked my students to bring gallon jugs and different kinds of containers so I could do this. Basically, it works on this premise. I have 5 gallon jugs in this one. These are called muck buckets, these blue things. You can get them from Lowe's for about $8. Really good deal there. And on these jugs, you want to cut holes at the top and at the bottom, along the bottom edge, and fit them all in there. When you have your soil made up, you're going to take one of these 1-inch PVC pipes, work it into one of these so it'll be sticking out. Then we put the soil in, pack it in real good. Good wicking soil would be, well, what I'm using is 50% organic compost, which is actually pretty cheap. Got that from Lowe's. And peat moss, which is also pretty cheap, about 50-50. I probably should put in some perlite, but this tends to be working pretty well. And the idea is you have a hole drilled about 5 or 6 inches from the bottom, and then you fill this thing up with water and liquid fertilizer until the water starts seeping out of here, and that's when you know it's full. And at the bottom there's all this reservoir space for water inside those jugs. So as you fill up the jugs from that pipe, it's pushing air. That water's pushing up air through these holes into the soil, so it's aerating the soil. And there'll be soil coming down here and all through here. And with that compost and peat mix, it will be perfect for wicking up the water to the plant from the bottom. This allows me not to have to water every day, and it conserves a lot of water. It doesn't just go straight into the soil and underneath. It keeps the water until it's used by the plant, and maybe once a week refilling it. Just depends. Some of these plants are sucking water pretty fast, so like they're pretty young, and I went 2 weeks with one watering, and this kale was just about completely out of water, as was the romaine. But the mustard, or the collard greens, they still have a lot of, well, about half left in them, so I topped them off. But it just depends. Some plants are going to suck more water than others. I did bring my cucumbers, watermelon plants, bush beans, all that kind of stuff out here because look how leggy they are. They shouldn't be that leggy, and they're probably not even going to work. I'll need to, but it's still really early in the season. Come on, come on. What is it? I'm just eating these things. Still early in the season, so I'll likely plant from seeds outside, and it'll be fine. It's just I had these under a 100-watt lamp, and they're all trying to get to the light, and they're all leggy, and they should be a lot thicker than that. So they're probably not going to work, but there's lots of time to grow more from seeds. I got plenty of seeds. They're cheap. Okay, so I've added a 1/4 cup. I kind of mixed it up so you don't see the white stuff as much, but a 1/4 cup of sea mineral, which has something like 90-something micronutrients that are supposed to really work for this. And then 1/2 cup of sustain, which is basically composted turkey feathers and I think chicken manure, maybe turkey manure. And that's way down there so that the roots won't have direct access to it, but once the plants are stronger, then those roots will get down there and use some of that. It'll be that on top of the liquid fertilizer, which I'll put in every time I water. Here's one possibility. Actually, I want a higher nitrogen, so I've been using just a 14-14-14 that I got at the big box store. Of course, I mean, there's all kinds of hard fertilizer you can use at the bottom. There's this, there's Osmocote. Once my tomatoes and some of the plants that aren't just greens like these, but plants that actually produce some fruit and vegetables on them, I'll be adding more of this, which is has a higher potassium, so I'll get more blooms and hopefully more fruit. I'll lower the nitrogen rate because I don't want the plants just to keep growing and not produce fruit. Okay, so here's the cucumbers. This is a Space Master variety, And as you can see, they're too leggy. They're probably not going to survive. So what I did was I put seeds all through here, maybe about 10 or 12 seeds. And I'll bet those come up in not too long. Early February, I think we're pretty much past any sort of frost. So it may get down into the 40s some nights, but it's usually around 60s and upper 50s in nights right now. So I think we're going to be okay. Days are 70s to, you know, low 80s. So I think this is about the right time of the season. I may be wrong, but I've got more seeds if I need to plant again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to top water this using this watering bucket just to get the seeds started and get everything, the soil wet on top. And I'm using this plant food here. It's a 24/8/16, so it's really going to work on getting the thickness of the stems and the green just to get growing. And then that middle number, that potassium, I'm going to be increasing that once they get to about a height that I want, or a little sooner than that. And so it goes a teaspoon of this to every gallon. And then I'll do the same thing here, where I'm just going to put this stuff in there. It'll end up being maybe a tablespoon, based upon how much water I think the buckets will hold down there. And then I'll put the water in, and it mixes itself. It's a little on the lazy side, but it's worked so far. So I do have some holes here, so when water starts coming out of those, I'll know to stop the water flow up here. And that should hold a couple weeks worth of water on this thing. I'll maybe top watering here and there just to make sure the seeds stay moist, but it depends on how moist the soil stays at the top. But these wicking buckets, this soil, half peat, half compost, I think is perfect, because I see that it wicks all the way to the top. I mean, if you notice here, I can feel this soil here is wet, and I didn't water it. It just comes up. Yet there should be enough air in there to keep the roots aerated and keep them from rotting with all the moisture. And like I said, so far so good. It's worked pretty well with these things. All right, so for some final thoughts, was a little hesitant to use this method once I found that some people think that you know, the soil gets really sludgy at the bottom with constant water at the bottom and it wicking up. Well, you know, all this stuff kind of, you have to sort of take it on faith, and I'm going to trust Leon on this one. Again, Gardening with Leon, check it out on YouTube. He's like 80 something years old, and man, he really knows his stuff. But yeah, any of these methods are going to have some strengths and weaknesses to them. I'd like to make a shout out to all my students that brought all these gallon jugs, and guys, I need more. I'm gonna fill this thing up eventually. I'd like to expand this, another cattle panel this way, all three of them, to take more advantage of this space. I do plan to grow watermelons and melons here along that fence and along the back there, using wicking tubs. So a little early for those, and yeah, they're all leggy, and I'll probably have to put some more seeds in. I'm sure I will. I'm gonna put Armenian cucumbers in here, and here's the leggy friends that I started, but I will put in more seeds around them just for that extra sort of security that I'm actually going to get something coming out of here. I am no expert at this, so you know, it's a big experiment. I've not really been big in gardening at all in my life. I've grown some things, but mainly just ornamental stuff. So we'll see. Anyway, hope you got some good ideas from this, and if so, give it a like, and otherwise I'll see you next time.